1999 was one of the most explosive years in PC gaming. APIs were changing, engines were evolving, and for the first time in years, the graphics card market wasn't dominated by just one company. 3DFX was still king of glide, Nvidia was pushing hard into 32-bit rendering, and AMD had just released the Athlon, the first CPU in years to generally shake Intel's dominance. And right in the middle of it all, that chaos, were two GPUs fighting for the top spot. 3DFX Voodoo3 3500 and the Nvidia TNT2 Ultra. It's the Battle of 99. I'm Nick, this is Retro to RTX. So let's start with the Voodoo3 3500. By 1999, 3DFX wasn't just a brand, they were practically a religion. The original Voodoo and the Voodoo2 had dominated the late 90s, and the 3500 was meant to keep that momentum alive. Built on the Avenger architecture, the Voodoo3 wasn't a clean design sheet. It was a refined Banshee with a second TMU or texture management unit, higher clocks and a glide pipeline polished to perfection. Running at 183 MHz with 16 MB of SDRAM, it delivered excellent performance in games that really mattered at the time, especially glide titles like Unreal Tournament 99 and Need for Speed. And of course it came with a built-in TV tuner, because apparently in 1999, 3DFX decided your graphics card should also be your set-top box. Ambitious? Absolutely. Necessary? Well, that's debatable.
Attention everybody, we're going to forget that environment stuff and use a chip for computer games. Back to work.
3DFX PC accelerators. So powerful, it's kind of ridiculous.
Blast his freaky head off!
And just when it looked like 3DFX had the formula locked in, Nvidia dropped something that changed the conversation entirely. The TNT2 Ultra. This was the card that proved Nvidia wasn't just catching up, they were ready to lead. With 150 MHz core clock and 183 MHz memory and a full 32 MB of VRAM, the Ultra brought high resolutions, proper 32-bit colour, and a strong OpenGL driver that made Quake 3 absolutely fly. But it didn't have hardware TNL yet. That would come a year later with the GeForce 256. But it had the efficiency and scalability that 3DFX was starting to struggle with. If the Voodoo3 was the charismatic veteran, the TNT2 Ultra was the disciplined newcomer who'd been studying the meta. Okay, to keep this fair, we're running both cards on an AMD Athlon K7 at 650 MHz, the fastest gaming CPU you could buy at the time. Okay, so before we get into the benchmarks, it's worthwhile touching on image quality, just because the way these cards render, they don't just differ in speed, but they also differ in image quality. So the Voodoo3 leans on high quality 16-bit output with that classic 3DFX dithering, while the TNT2 Ultra pushes sharper textures and full 32-bit colour. Different philosophies, different results. So for this comparison, we're going to be capturing the raw VGA output directly. No filters, no scaling. So you're seeing exactly what these cards produced in 1999. Alright, let's get to the benchmarks. Here we are, we've got Quake 3, we've got the TNT2 Ultra in 16-bit colour mode, pulling ahead at 50 frames per second. Coming in not far behind, we've got the Voodoo3 3500, displaying 16-bit. at 42 frames a second, and coming in last TNT2 Ultra in 32-bit mode. Still playable though at 36.4 frames per second. So pulling ahead here in Need for Speed 3, we've got the Voodoo3 on 62 frames. Not that far behind, we've got the TNT2 Ultra 16-bit on 49, and following up the rear, we've got the TNT2 Ultra 32-bit on 35 frames. It's good to see that the Voodoo3 is applying that glide here, that well-optimized API. Well, obviously the TNT2 is relying on Direct 3D. So here we are in Unreal Tournament. We've got the Voodoo3 absolutely smashing the TNT2 Ultra, especially in maximum frame rate. We've got a 123 frames as opposed to 99 of the TNT2 Ultra. Either way though, both of them absolutely playable in these settings. Interesting thing to note though, I couldn't get the TNT2 Ultra to play 32-bit colour for some reason in this game. I have had this issue in the past. This needs something I need to look at, but for the time being, we're just going to have to do without those results. You can see here in 3D Mark 99 Max, the TNT2 Ultra in 16-bit and 32-bit variants is taking the commanding lead over the Voodoo3 with a high score of 6,291 in 16-bit mode and also 5,594 in 32-bit mode for the TNT2 Ultra. And lagging behind the pack, we've got the Voodoo3 3500 on 1,494. Being a Direct 3D only application, you can see that the Voodoo3's strength is not Direct 3D. Alright guys, so that's the benchmarks. What we're going to look at now is the Voodoo3 in its marketed 22-bit color mode versus the TNT2 Ultra in 16-bit and 32-bit color mode side by side, just so you can see the difference, and we're going to go from there. So here we have the lobby scene in 3D Mark 2001, otherwise known as the Matrix scene. Some people thought this scene was actually pulled from the Matrix, but apparently that wasn't the case. Anyway, on the left there, we've got the Voodoo3. The Voodoo3, you can see the dithering around the firing pattern there, and also a little bit on the gun. That's about all I can really see. There is a slight difference in reflection on the floor, but in the whole action scene, it's not these things you wouldn't really pick up, I wouldn't think, not to my eyes anyway. In the middle there, we've got the TNT2 Ultra. This is in 16-bit color mode, and you can see dithering around the firing pattern where the bullet's obviously leaving the gun. But other than that, I can't really pick it. Side by side next to the 32-bit color mode, which is on the far right, you can see some difference, but I wouldn't say it's overly noticeable. To my eyes, the big notice is between the 32-bit color mode and also the 16-bit color mode, or 22-bit color mode, if you will, of the Voodoo3. So here we are now, we've got Quake 3, side-by-side comparison again. Obviously there's a bit of image tearing, but that's only because the VSync was turned off when these images were actually taken, so we'll just ignore that for now. Image quality wise, I can't really pick much between the images. Maybe you guys in the comments will say something different, but to my eyes I can't really see much. Obviously on the far right we've got the TNT2 Ultra 32-bit. In the legs there I can see some slight grading in colour, but other than that the gun looks pretty much the same. The floor looks very similar. Yeah, so take it as you will, but for me personally, I wouldn't be putting this game in 32-bit color mode just because of the substantial frame rate drop, and I can't really pick much difference in image quality. And be honest, when I'm playing the game, I don't really care too much. So take it as you will. Alright guys, so I'm at the end of the video. That was the TNT2 Ultra and also the Voodoo3 3500. Which one's better? Me personally, I think it depends on what game you're playing. Obviously the Voodoo3 3500 does have that glide support that the TNT2 Ultra doesn't have. However, in '99 things were starting to change in that Direct 3D was becoming more supported in games as opposed to back in 1996 where it wasn't really a thing and was more glide. So you can see that changing in that time period there. So Voodoo3, image quality is a little bit down, but performance does make up for it in a lot of games. Direct 3D performance is a little bit behind the TNT2 Ultra. However, when glide's factored in, it generally does win. So anyway, that's a wrap folks. If you like the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.